All right, so this is the, let me see, one, two, three, one, two, three. Okay. So as this is 9 a.m., let me start my makeup lecture today. Yeah, hi, good morning, everyone. So I see Soyeon, Dahyun, Jihyo. Thank you very much for your time for my makeup lecture. Can you hear me? Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Okay, sounds great. Sounds great. Thank you very much. All right, so thank you very much for your time again. So this is a makeup lecture for the November 4th because I missed the lecture because of my bad throat condition. So I still have the runny nose, so I'm so sorry again for my bad voice, the condition of the voice. But yeah, I will try my best to deliver the lecture without any problem. All right, so this is week number 10, and we are heading to the survey research, which is the kind of the basis of the, sorry, the quantitative lecture, quantitative method. So yeah, when I checked that, so when I use the presentation mode, yeah, so the recorded video was very slow. So let me not use the presentation mode, but just use the normal mode. So I had a very bad fever and the coughing and the runny nose, even though I have that. So I found that maybe skipping the class would be better, not to spread out the disease. And instead of the in-person, the makeup class, probably the internet version is better. So the survey. So in Korean, so we have many of the 설문조사, and you might be very familiar with that because you may catch a call from the survey company, and they would just ask the question that your satisfaction or your opinion about the political orientation and other issues of the South Korea or something. So the survey method is one of the bases of the qualitative method and the quantitative method or the mixed method we will be learning in the later part of this semester. So I will go through a very basics again, and I will also review some of the important topic again. So as I announced before, so attendance will be checked and replaced by the in-class assignment. So around the end of the lecture today, I will activate the menu and let you know how to use that and have the time. And I will provide a guide so that you can resolve those issues in the questionnaires again very easily. In case you are watching this video as a recorded option, yeah, you are still available to check up for your attendance, so no worries about that. All right, so before going to the survey research, let me go to the very important issue we learned before. So when we learn the scale and the measures, so we learn that based on the measurement in the survey, we will be getting the information about the height and the wealth and the well-being. And there are four major level of measurement we're learning. So instead of the very details in this time, we are just simplifying that there is the categorical non-rank, which is the nominal. There is categorical, which is a grouping the people in order, and there are the very number-like variables like income in constant dollars or income in Korean won, the height and something. So let's ignore that whether we are dividing as interval or ratio because in social science it's very hard to find the interval variable. So we are focusing on sorry. We are focusing on the continuous variable in survey research or the ordinal variable and nominal variable. So for example, as you learned last time, this question is about agreeing about abortion if woman wants for any reason. So the answers are the yes or no because we are ignoring the missing values, which are so inapplicable. If this question is asked to others who are not applicable to this opinion, maybe they are classified in this way. DK means don't know and NA means no answer. So these are the missing values, so we are excluding that. But in any case, the answering as yes or answering as no, these are classified as the nominal variable because indicating whether they are agreeing about abortion or they are disagreeing about the abortion. So we cannot find any order, which means whether yes is better, or we cannot say no is better or worse or something. So we can just compare their groupings without the order. That is nominal variable. All right. So another variable is the ordinal variable. Yeah, I believe, and I remember that there was one question there asking which is the level of measurement of the strongly agree or strongly disagree or something. So usually these are the categorical variable. We cannot find the fixed intervals among them, but we can compare the order of the answers, saying that health condition of the people, and then we are saying that excellent is the best level of the condition, health condition among these attributes. And good is a little bit less, but still very good. Fair is very normal health condition, and poor is the worst level of condition. So we are not sure. We are not sure how much good or how good is their health, but we can know that anyway. Excellent is better than good. Good is better than fair. Fair is better than poor. So we are using this type of a categorical variable a lot in survey research because when you have the opinion, when you have the opinion about the specific conditions, such as do you prefer to have the maybe online class? Maybe you can say that strongly prefer or prefer normal or in the middle or not prefer or strongly not prefer like that. So we can just check whether which attributes, I mean, which answer would be strongly prefer or less prefer, but we cannot know how much prefer or what would be your opinion about them. So we are using the example of the ordinal variable as one of the very prevalent type of the research question in the survey. And this one is a metric variable. So as I mentioned just before, we are not just classifying the interval or ratio variable from now on, because in social science, we cannot find interval variable a lot. So zero means zero year of education, which means they did not have any education at school. So they may do some of the homeschooling or something, but in terms of the public education, they didn't have any education. And 1 year of education, 2 year of education, and then 10 years of the education, and 20 years of education. So we can say that 20 years of education would be the highest level because that might mean 20 or over. And we can say that, so those who have the 20 years of education in this variable is measured that. It's measured the 20 years of education. And then if there's a people said B have the 10 years of education, and A had 20 years of education, and B had 10 years of education. So we can say that A has 2 times more education than B. So in this type of the metric variable, we can calculate the arithmetic. So which means the plus, minus, and the division and the multiplication. So I just mentioned that 2 times more. So it was multiplication, right? So we can apply the arithmetic calculation. And then these are providing more flexible, and there are more flexibility in terms of the statistical method. So this is saying that the mode, median, and mean, you learned before the midterm, saying the mode is the most frequent answer in this questionnaire. So right, for example, so among the most of the cases, there are 4 cases of the 0 year of education, 10 cases of the 3 years of education, and there are 657 cases of the people who had the 12 years of education. So among all of the answers in the years of education, 12 years would be the mode of this variable because there are the largest cases in terms of the frequency. I mean the count, the count in the frequency. The median is the middle of the distribution. So usually, there are many of the current ways of the calculation, but anything. So the cumulative percentage is the accumulated the cases. So usually on the first attribute, the first category or the first item attribute, whatever the terminology, the first case of the attributes over 50 is the median of the distribution. So there are the accumulation 0.2, 0.3, 4, 4, 1, 2, and go on. And 48.7 is less than 50 still, and 62. So this is the first category of the attribute over 50 in the accumulated percentage. And we can say that 14 years of education is the middle, the very middle, the 50 percentile of the distribution. The mean is, yeah, anyway, the average years of education. So I will show you later. Okay, and the standard deviation is I will cover the more details later in the other slides. And it's meaning that how much spread out of all the cases and the variable. And so it can be that this is not average, but very typical distance from the mean of the case, mean and the cases. So I will show you the more the ways of the calculation. So again, these are the easier ways of the categorization. So if there is order of the data values, order of the data values is undisputable. So we cannot say that because the order is not clear. So this is not undisputable, which means this is disputable. It means that there is nominal variable because there is not a clear order among those attributes. So for example, nationality. So if you're Korean, if you're Chinese, if you're US citizen, so we can classify your nationality, but we cannot say which one is better or something. And if there is a undisputable order in the data, that might be more likely the ordinal variable. The data values have a fixed unit of the measurements, like the education variable, every 1 year interval. But other than that, so like strongly agree, strongly agree, neutral, no, no, disagree, strongly disagree. So we can know that you are more agreeing about that or you are less agreeing about that. But we are not sure. We cannot quantify whether that is 2 times or 3 times more agree about that. So that will be ordinary variable. So that will be bad, neutral, good, and some of the Likert variable in many of the survey questions. So zero means nothing or something, but we are not classifying that. So that would be the very modern type of approach. So metric variable is does the data values have a fixed unit of the measurement, like the education variable, for example. So let me show you like that. So 0 through 1. So 1 unit is 1 year, right? So 1 year interval. 4 through 5. Yeah, right. So 4 through 5. So interval between 4 years of education and 5 years of education is 1 year again. So interval between 0 through 1 and interval through 5 to 6, they have the same fixed width of the measurement as 1 year, right? So everywhere, so 1 through 2, 10 through 11, 16 through 17, yeah, right. So every interval in within this data, this variable is 1 year as the fixed unit. So this type of variable is what we call a metric variable. So yeah, I highly recommend you to review these slides because these will be very, very basic unit of the unit of analysis we can see. So there is central tendency again. The mean is average, median is the median value, the middle of the value of the distribution, and the mode is the value that occurs most frequently. They're the largest group in the data. So you can compare these levels of the central tendency to summarize your data. All right, so this is a new, maybe not new to you, but this is a new type of new type of topic we didn't cover in this class. So again, so instead of the population data, it can be the one whole country, it can be a county, population can be on a region or the group of the people based on your research. It can be very, very different. But anyway, the sample data is the smaller than the population because we don't have the money and we don't have the enough time. So we are just collecting the subset of the population. And we are trying to have the representative sample data because we want to generalize. We want to represent the population from the small data. And we learned that there are many of the various sampling method. So now we are having the survey research. So instead of the population parameter, such as the mean years of education of the whole the people in South Korea or the United States. So we cannot have the parameter usually because the collecting all the people in one country in the population takes so long time and it's almost impossible for the individual. So maybe the Census Bureau or the 통계청 in South Korea, they can do that, but we cannot do that. So we are using the sample data as the inferential statistics, or in Korean, that is the 추정 통계. It's the 추정 통계. And so we are using the sample statistics collected from the survey research we are learning from today. So, for example, one questionnaire was possibly asking about the variability in one's mood. So, 0 means the worst level of the emotional mood, 10 means the best emotional mood. So, let's suppose that there is one questionnaire asking about your mood. So, what is your mood today? So let's suppose that this is the example there. So there are the nine, probably the nine people, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There are nine individuals in the data. So they said five might be in the middle, right? Three bad, a little bit bad, six a little bit better, seven, eight, nine, possibly very good, seven, five, seven. So the lower number indicates the worse mood, and the higher number means the better mood. So in this case, so you can apply the mean, a median, and the modes. The mode would be 7, 7, 7. There are three sevens. So 7 would be the mode of the distribution. And if you align them in the increasing or decreasing order, the middle number would be the middle number with the median. So if you calculate the average, maybe you can find the average that. But in this case, you can also find the distance between the maximum and the minimum value in this distribution in your survey. So that's what we call the range, which is the 범위 in Korean, right? So how to calculate the range, the 범위, which is the difference between the maximum number and the minimum number. So what is the maximum number in this distribution? So we can easily find that 9 is the biggest number in the data. So I'm not saying the maximum number possible. I'm not saying the maximum number possible because they would do the 10. But as there was no individual who answered 10, so we are saying that 9 is the maximum. And what is the minimum? 3 is the minimum. So the maximum minus minimum is 9 minus 3. So it's 6. So the range of this data from this variable, the mood variable is 6, right? So you cannot say 10 because there was no one who answered 10. There was no one who answered 0. So we can classify that. So standard deviation is the 표준 편차 in Korean. So probably you learned that very shortly in your high school in mathematics or the mathematics 1 or mathematics 2. But this is typically, so you can ignore the equation because we are not covering that. I'm not asking to calculate that. But the definition is how spread out. How much is spread out the values are in population and sample. So usually we are using the sample data, but we can assume that we are using the population data. So that's why. Please ignore these equations. So no, no, I will not cover that. So for example, so you can find that average the average length of the dog would be in the 400. So 400 millimeters. 400 millimeters. And there is a big dog, and there is a little bit longer dog, and there are shorter dog and smaller dogs. So we can see that there are these amounts. So we are not sure how much yet, but there are this amount of the distribution that not very, very wide, but anyway, they are the cases. Each case is very widely spread out. So compared with the mean, the big dog, the 206 is the difference. The distance between the value, the first one, the first case, and the mean, second case and the mean, third case and the mean, fourth case and the mean, and fifth case of the mean. So we are finding the typical distance between each case and the mean. So that is the meaning of the standard deviation. So what does that mean? That the standard deviation is very big. So if the standard deviation is very big, it means that the typical distance between each case and the average would be very, very large, all right? So in opposite, if the standard deviation is very small, it means that the deviations are very, very small, right? So the bigger standard deviation means more spread out. The smaller standard deviation is less spread out. So these are some of the key items we are covering in terms of the distribution. So again, we are not calculating that, but let me show you as a just example. So no exam question, you're calculating the standard deviation. So you are not required to learn how to calculate that. But possibly, yeah, I may ask about the meaning of the standard deviation, right? So that's why I'm explaining that. So let's suppose that the mu is the mean of the population. The x means the each case. So as you learned in the function, the 함수 in the mathematics, the x means the each individual. So that can be 5, 3, 6, 7. So every case in the data. So x minus mu means the deviation score, right? This is the deviation score, which is the difference between each case and the mean. So either population mean or sample mean. All right, so I calculated that. So 6.33 is the average among those numbers. So in this data, in this variable, 6.33 is the average. And each case, or all the cases are spread out from the mean, right? So after calculating the standard deviation in using these equations. So again, you don't need to calculate that. So the standard deviation is 1.7. So the general interpretation of the 1.7 and the standard deviation is, we can say typically the scores are 1.7 away from the population mean, or the mean 6.33. All right, so I tried to make some examples. So this is our original data I showed just before, and this is a more the extreme data. So you can see that so some are 9, some are 1, 2, so there are more distances. So as you can see, right, so 1.69, 1.7 is the standard deviation. The spread out is maybe relatively minimal than this one, because standard deviation of this distribution. I mean 9, 2, 2, 1, 2, 7, 9, 1, 2. So more differences among them. So if there are larger standard deviations, it means that those groups would have more diversity, more 다양성, or more spread out, and more variability. So maybe there would be more homogeneity, which means the 동질성, if there is a small standard deviation, and we can say there is more 이질성, or more heterogeneity, more variability, more diversity, 다양성, when there is the larger standard deviation. So there is no absolute value or the absolute standard. There is no the absolute 기준 to classify the variability or the diversity is very big or not. But we're just learning that there is the variability among them. So again, so in the survey data, so when you collect the survey data, so it is very, very hypothetic. It's very hypothetic that normal distribution, which is no skew, no kurtosis, no lined up. So perfectly symmetrical distribution, which means they are divided as a half, and their shapes are absolutely safe. That's what it's saying. And there's another another case as the positively skewed. For example, so the line, I mean, we are saying the hand. So the extreme with the bigger or that is skewed in the positive direction. So mode is here, and the median is bigger than mode, and the mean is bigger than median. So in this case, instead of having the same mean and the median and mode, we are saying that that is positively skewed. And there are more number of the extremely big cases in this case. And there is another case that's negative skewed, which means mode is the biggest and the median is smaller than that, and mean is the smallest because there are many of the extreme values. So you are just saying that if the mean is smaller than median, like that, if mean is smaller than median, you can say that is more likely to be negatively skewed. And if the mean is bigger than median, you can simply say that it's positively skewed. So based on the skewness and the measure of the symmetry, you can say that that is whether positively skewed, it has a longer right arm, the negative skewed as the longer left arm. So based on that, you can compare those skewness in that way. And the skewness. So in terms of the distribution, so we are seeing that as a shape, but we are using the statistics. So there is a Fisher, the Pearson coefficient. So there is the statistics, the number. So it's very simple. So if the skewness statistics is equal to 0, it means that that is normal distribution. If the skewness value or the skewness statistics is bigger than 0, which means the positive value, that is positively skewed. There are longer right arm, there are more extreme cases. And if the skewness statistics is below 0, smaller than 0, that is negatively skewed, which means it has more the negative extreme values. So we can see that the compared with the normal distribution, so that is symmetrical, right? And possibly there are relatively not many variations compared with the positively skewed and negatively skewed. But in other words, so if there is the positively skewed distribution, or if there is the negatively skewed distribution, it may have more diversity. It may have more heterogeneity than the normal distribution. Because normal distribution is symmetrical, so they may have the very limited number of the distribution and the diversity. But you can see that positive skewed can reach to the very, very, very large, big number. The negative skewed would mean it will reach to the very, 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 very small number. So compared with the normal distribution, there are more diversity, or there are more variability, or there are more heterogeneity in positively skewed or negatively skewed compared with the normal. So we're not sure. We're not sure whether there is more heterogeneity in positively skewed or negative skewed, but compared with the normal distribution, we can say that there are other messages. So again, in survey data, so there is a kurtosis, which is the whether that it will be very sharp or that it will be very, very flat, right? So compared with the normal distribution, symmetrical, very bell curve, very, very normal. So there is very, very, very steep distribution, which means within very small range, within very, very small range of the distribution of the survey data, most of the cases are distributed within very small range of the distribution. So this is what we say the positive kurtosis, which means if the kurtosis statistics is bigger than zero, that is the positive kurtosis, which means there is a sharper, there is a sharper distribution. Uh, And compared with that, there is a negative kurtosis. There is a not very sharp, but that is very, very flat. If the kurtosis statistics is below zero, which means smaller than zero, that is what is saying the negative kurtosis, that it will be very, very flat. That would be sample distribution is flatter than normal distribution. So maybe either skewness or kurtosis, you are comparing some of the number based on the zero as the normal distribution. All right, so in terms of the diversity, in terms of the 다양성, or in terms of the heterogeneity, which is the 이형성 or 이질성, so compared with the normal distribution, positive kurtosis, so would they have the smaller diversity or bigger diversity? For example, there is wider, right? There is wider distribution in normal distribution than positive kurtosis, right? The range in the positive kurtosis is this amount, right? So as you calculate the range, the maximum minus minimum is just this amount. But in here, there are bigger range, right? So compared with the normal distribution, high positive kurtosis or the positive kurtosis has less diversity. But compared with the normal distribution, negative kurtosis, which is the flatter distribution, they would have more diversity, right? Because there are the wider range of the variability. So that's why we are saying that there is more diversity in negative kurtosis, and there is less diversity in positive kurtosis compared with the normal distribution. All right? Okay. So it might be a little bit confusing, but if we just align those numbers and those conceptualization all together, then might be you can find some pattern how to compare with the normal distribution. Okay, so this is one example. So in general social survey data in the United States, there were 2,341 cases, although there are seven missing cases. So this is the age of the people. So age of the respondent who answered the questionnaire. So the mean age of the people in the data is 48.97. So averagely, so they are 48. So after rounding up, they are 49 years old. So in terms of age, the median is 48. So middle of the distribution is 48. The mode of the distribution, which is the largest group in the age group, is the 34 years old of the generation, right? So these are types of the central tendency. And in terms of the variability, the standard deviation is 18.061. So we are not sure how much big or something is very big or not. But anyway, the typical distance between each case and the average of the age is 18. So the variability is 18. The skewness is 0.222, so which is the positive number, right? So which is positive number. So we are not sure how much, but anyway, that is the positively skewed. And so we are not seeing the standard error, but saying that kurtosis is below zero, right? This is negative number. So we are saying that they have the negative kurtosis and it has the flatter, I mean the wider range of the distribution than normal distribution. All right. So these are the types of the interpretation, and maybe it would be very useful. It is very useful to remember this type of this type of example. Because this type of the example is very easily appearable in the exam, very easily. So for example, if I put this type of the table in exam, and maybe in the multiple choice question, I may put the wrong interpretation, and you can pick that. So for example, if there is an option that the mean age is 48, that's wrong, right? And maybe the skewness and the interpretation of the kurtosis are wrong, or maybe you can pick them up. So again, they might be very important to remember. Okay. 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 I'm short of the breath. Okay. So this is the age of the respondents. So based on this data, uh, I made a histogram. And so there's mean as 48 around here. No. Uh, There is around 50. Where is the 50? Let's suppose there is 50, and maybe the mean of the distribution around be here. Okay, the middle of the normal distribution would be the mean in case there is normal distribution. All right. So in terms of the skewness, so it is positively skewed. So it should mean that it would have more the bigger cases, right? More bigger cases in the extreme, and then may positively skewed. And in terms of the kurtosis, compared with the normal distribution, it might have the flatter distribution. But usually, as our own the bare eyes, the 맨눈으로는 it's very hard to see. There are the variations. So we are just seeing that we are just relying on the number instead of the just you seeing the shape of the distribution. All right. So this is the another example. So R's age when the first child was born. So their age when they had the first child. And the mean is 24.3. Wow, they're early, right? 23 is the median, the middle distribution. The mode is 21. So yeah, so surely in the United States, they would have their children very, very early. So because there are the very wide range of the age in that variable. Uh, okay. And skewness is the positive number. We can say there's a positive skewed. And kurtosis is the positive number. So it may be steeper than normal distribution. All right. So family income in constant dollars. So it may be a little bit tricky. But anyway, the standard deviation very big. Skewness is positive number. Kurtosis is a positive number. So we can say that it's positively skewed. And we can say that it's the positively positive sharper than the normal distribution. But we are not sure. It's very hard to see in the data of distribution. But anyway, so again, so we are not relying on our observation of the graph, but we are just seeing the tables as statistics. Okay. So there might be some practice. The mean is 17 something and the histogram. So you can utilize the information in this type of the graph and you can interpret the center tendency. All right. So before having the 10 minutes rest, let me go to the normal distribution. This is also very hypothetical, very, very, very hypothetical, meaning within one standard deviation from the mean. I mean, so mean plus one standard deviation. The gamma means standard deviation. And so, okay, so one standard deviation from the mean and one standard deviation from the mean, so below the mean. So let me use that. Okay. All right. So it's say, oh, no, no, no. Sorry about that. Oh, no. Hmm. Maybe I need to ungroup them. Ungroup. There's nothing. But I don't know why. Ooh, it's moving together. Why? Sorry. Okay. All right. So within one standard deviation. So I'm putting arrow. I need the two-sided arrow. Hmm. Hmm. I need two-sided arrow. But I cannot find it here. One more, please. I don't want to use it. Maybe shape. Okay, here it is. All right. Thank you for your patience. All right. So this is a theory. This is a theory that within one standard deviation from the mean, so from the one standard deviation above, within one standard deviation above, there are about 68% of the distribution. distribution within this range. All right. So this is theory. So you can just memorize that because we are not covering the mathematical calculation. And within two standard deviations. Okay. Okay. Within two standard deviations. And for your easier understanding, I'm adding that. Is that right? Okay. Within 1, 2, and 1, 2. Within two standard deviations, there are 95% of the distribution within this range. Okay. And lastly, within three standard deviations from the mean, there are 99% of the distribution within the range. All right. So we can say that within three standard deviations from the mean, most of the cases are within. So within two standard deviation, a lot because there are 95% of distribution. And within 68% of the, no, sorry, within one standard deviation of the distribution, there are 68% of the people or the cases are in here. So this is what we say the Gaussian normal curve, Gaussian normal distribution, which is the basis of uh, the assumption. For example, let's suppose that we have the normal distribution in this variable, which is the highest year of the schooling year completed. So we can say the mean is calculated mean is 13.37. So there is the 13.37 in the middle, right here. So one standard deviation from the mean. Uh, okay. So within one standard deviation. So this is one standard deviation, and this is one standard deviation. So what is the range? What is the range of the 68% of the cases in this data? So we can simply find it because that is mean plus one, no, that's a one standard deviation is here. This is just theory, which is mean minus one standard deviation is here. So sorry that I cannot make the arrow very quickly. So this is the mean, the middle of the distribution of the normal distribution in survey data. One standard deviation is here, and one standard negative minus one standard deviation minus is here. So between so here is 13.73 minus 2.974, comma, so which is the lower bottom, 70.73 plus 2.974, which is here. So that is the calculated 10.7 something through 60.7 something. So in this theory, in this assumption of the normal distribution, we are saying that between 10.75 through 16.7, there are 68% of the people in the data. They are located within that range. So by using that information, you can find the range of the 95% of the people, 99% of the people in this distribution. Okay. All right. So I think we can take a rest about 10 minutes and I will come back. So this is 9:44, but I will resume the lecture at 9:55. All right. Thank you very much for your attention and see you within 10 minutes. All right, so this is on the 54, so let's get started again. Okay. Yeah, it seems the audio is working very well, so yeah, let me go ahead. Yeah, if you cannot hear me well, just let me know. All right, so we are coming back to the main part of the survey methodology or the survey research. So let me pass the outline because we are covering very soon. All right, so there are many topics. So in the social welfare, there are so many topics for the exploratory or the explanatory, descriptive. So any topic of your interest in the social welfare, these could be very well matched with the survey research. So unit of analysis would be individuals, right? So because usually, the survey questions are asked to the each people. So respondents or individuals that are in terminology we say that a person who provides data for analysis by responding to a survey questionnaire. So usually we collect a large sample, original data, measuring attitudes and the orientations for the people. We say, mm, ah, so yeah, so within the survey data, so there is a questionnaire. So there are the 설문지 in the data. We're saying a document containing questions and other types of the items designed to solicit information appropriate for the analysis. So in other words, a questionnaire. So the questionnaire is the list of the questions. So, so when you see the 설문지, when we participate in the survey, these are for the collecting the information from you. So researcher, teacher, organizer use to learn about their opinion, their behavior, or their facts, and the answer can be the study analyzed to find the patterns and the draw conclusion for the explanatory or exploratory and the descriptive studies. So there are many types of the questionnaire. So the open-ended questionnaire and the closed-ended questionnaires. For example, the open-ended questions are what we say kind of the 주관식. So you can post your answers whatever you want. So there might be some limit of the length, but instead of choosing some of the pre-existing answers, you can write or you can freely share your opinion by answering those questions. And closed-ended questions are the survey questions in the which the respondent is asked to select an answer from the 객관식 or some of the Likert scale or other types of the answer, the possible answers. So there are many golden rules. There are many golden rules to provide the questionnaires in the survey. So it should be clear. So without clearness, it's very hard to answer. So avoid double-barreled questions. So it means that within one question, you only need to ask one thing. So if you ask two things in one sentence, it's almost impossible to answer two parts fully. So within one question, you need to answer one. You need to add one question, ask one question. This one must be confident to answer if these are two privacy issue or if these are two security issue or something, maybe individuals may not feel very confident to answer. And responsibility willing to answer the ethical issue. Questions should be relevant. Short items are best. Avoid the negative items. Avoid the bias items and terms. These are the guideline because there are many of the shortfalls in case you do not follow these items. For example, instead of very clear items, instead of very clear wording, if you use the vague and the confusing questions, then that might be very hard to answer. For example, do you think social change is important? It might be very important question, but it might be too vague. So which kind of the social change? So we are not sure. So if it's too wide and vague, we can answer very effectively. Avoid double barrel question. Ask two things at once. That's not very good. So do you support higher taxes and better welfare programs, right? So which one you would answer, higher tax or better welfare program? You may agree about the higher taxes, but you may not agree about the welfare program or vice versa in opposite way. So the double barrel question is not very good in that way. At least for the most, be confident the answer ask about things they don't know. So how effective is your city's fiscal policy, the 예산? the 통계 예산, 회계 예산, and long-term inflation control. Okay. I don't know. I don't know how the Taejongsi or the Chanansi is doing about that. So not confident about that. And respondent must be willing to answer, ask sensitive or embarrassing, questions without care. So, how much money do you have in your bank account right now? Okay, and that's to privacy. So that might be rude to ask about that. So not very good. So questions should be very relevant. Irrelevant off-topic questions are not very good. And questions that have nothing to do with your research goal. Saying that asking about your favorite TV show in the survey about the workplace stress. These are not very relevant, right? So instead of the short, okay, short items, use very long and wordy. So that's why, yeah, so for your final exam, yeah, I don't plan to put very long sentences. So instead, for example, considering all the economic, political, and environmental factors that might influence your opinion, how likely you are to blah, 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 blah. So it's very hard to follow the topic with a very efficiently. So that's not very, very good. And avoid negative items. So usually we may have the implicit bias. So if we use the double negative or the tricky wording, there might be some of the very issues. So confuse response by using negatives and the double negative, that might not be very useful. So, do you disagree that students shouldn't be required to attend the class? All right. So, what does it mean? So, do you agree that students should required to attend this class? It's very hard. So, do you disagree that students shouldn't be required to attend the class? So you mean that do you agree that students should be required to attend the class? So yeah, the double denier or the double negatives are very confusing. And avoid bias items. Use loaded and emotionally charged language. So do you agree that lazy students should be punished for skipping class? The lazy students, they might be too value oriented, so not very useful. All right. So very similarly, so there would be more support if you use this terminology, like assistant poor, higher, halting the rise in the crime rate or something. But there would be more support to these terminologies, even though they have the very similar meaning. So that's about that. So in general, a question format in guideline, it should be uncluttered, which means clean and easy to read. And one question per line, because if there are multiple questions in line, so like that, if I write more in the long way, in this way, it's very hard to read over, right? So one sentence or one line like that, one question per line, and consistent format. If the formats are very fluctuating, like it would be very large somewhere. It will be very small somewhere. It might be very tricky, right? You may not like that. So keeping the consistency of the items would be very useful. And contingency question would be the survey question intended for only some of the respondents, individual, determined by their responses to some other question. So this one is the contingency questionnaire. So have you ever smoked marijuana? So if they say yes, they would have the additional question. But if they say no, right? If they say they never smoked marijuana, they have never smoked marijuana. Maybe it's not required to ask a further question that how many times to have the smoked marijuana, right? So that's about it. And did you? So there are many formats of the survey questions. So if you use online, maybe you can just click the questions. But if you have the hard copy version of the survey questions, when you participate in survey, you'd have the circle or the we check. Maybe may have many of the ways to mark up, but usually you can circle the answer. That's a very basics. And again, the next contingency table. Sometimes it will be appropriate for certain kinds of response to skip over inapplicable questions to avoid confusion. You should provide clear instructions to that end. So that would be very important part as well. So, for example, have you ever been abducted by aliens. So it will be kidnapped by aliens. So if they say yes, so then this is instruction. If yes, those who answers no, you don't need to, they didn't need to care about that. Did they let you steer the ship, 운전하게 해줬어요? Yes. Well, I don't know. If yes, how fast did you go? Warp speed or winning speed? So you can just find that in that way, like winning, sure. And there is another. Have you ever voted for national, state, or a local election? Yes. If you say yes, please answer questions 14 through 25. If you say no, please skip questions through 14 through 25. Go directly to the next type of the questions. So by using the contingency table and detailed instructions, the respondents and individuals who are participating in the survey, they would follow your order more quickly and easily. All right, so this is another type of the question survey and the questionnaire in the survey data. This is why we say the metrics, the question format. So this is type of the close-ended instead of the open-ended. This is designed to choose the answer, and you can find some of the degree. You can compare the degrees of the answers. So these would be the very good example of the ordinal variable. So beside of each statement presented below, please indicate whether you strongly agree, disagree, strongly disagree, or undecided. So undecided might be missing value because this is not, they don't know and they do not have a specific opinion. But strongly agree would mean the biggest or the most favor, and the strongly disagree would be the least favor about that situation. That what this country needs is more law and order. Strongly agree, or strongly disagree. The police should be disarmed in America, right? Agree or disagree? During riots, looters should be shot on sight. It means that sometimes when they have the 시위 in the United States, there are some of the people, or they call it looters in the Seoul. There are some people who are stealing the items from the shops, when they are in the chaotic situation. So would you agree that they would be shot? They were shot in that spot. Oh, maybe you would agree or not, but not sure about that. So advantages of the matrix format would be very efficient. So instead of the open answers, it would be very easy to be presented in the very compact way. Easy for respondents as well, good for attitude measurements. So useful when measuring opinions about like issues using the same scale, like a Likert scale. So anyway, you can use the averagely. How many percentage of the people are saying that strongly agree or disagree or strongly disagree? You can say that would be the people are more aligned to the favors, the more regulation, or disfavors, unfavor to the regulations. So these are the messages that responses set by it. They may start making the same column, so they are very lazy, they are very 귀찮아, and then they would just choose their answers in one line. They would choose the one lines. They would 찍어 the answers in the one line. And row confusion it's very easy to mark wrong line. So in case there are 10 or 11 lines, so you are intended to answer this question, but mistakenly putting the answers in the below. So that the limited flexibility means that works only when all questions can logically share the same response categories. So these are some of the regulations and the limitations. So when you create your own questionnaires in the social welfare research, it should be the order items in the question and the appearance in the open-ended in the one, which one first, randomized ordering, sensitivity problem. So anyway, you should start from very clear instruction. So for example, when I create, this is not a survey data, but when I create the exam questions, so I would put instructions first because the participants, I mean, you would follow the information and knowledge required for the exam, and you can find that. All right, so this is an example question there. So here are some things that government might to do for economy. Circle one number for each action to show whether you are in favor it or against it. So this is the general social survey, a very large data in the United States. So number one means strongly in favor of. Number three is neither in favor or nor against, which is then very, very normal. Number five is strongly against about that. So, do you think about this? There should be uh, the government action, controls of the wage by legislation, controls of the prices by legislation, cuts in government spending, government handling, enhancing the project to the create new jobs or blah blah blah. So you can align these answers within the same topic because these are more about their agree or disagreement about the government policy. Okay, this is the government spending. So how much spending should be more? Spend much more, spend less. So in terms of the opinion, you can find that. And so these are some of the examples you can use. So possibly your in-class assignment, or you'd try to find the similar questions, and then you'd mimic and you'd find the very resemble questions by these options. All right, so questionnaires in which respondents are asked to complete themselves. So males, so there are various ways. There are various ways of the survey question, such as mail distribution and return, right? So that might be very time consuming. So I'm not saying this is a waste of time, but that might be time consuming because it takes time to be delivered to you or the participants, and they would need to go to the post office or somewhere to send back again, return again. So why do people not return questionnaires? Because it's too annoying and it's very 귀찮아서, very 귀찮아 because and it's very hard to monitor returns and to follow the mailings. So it's very expensive. It takes a long time. So there would be, we cannot find a very golden rule about that, but the number of people participating in the survey divided by the number of people. So how many people complete the survey? So idea would be the response rate is over 70%. That would be very, very good. So why is a low response rate bad? Because there might be some bias. So that will lead into the bias or non representative the data and other sampling or other response issues like that. So without the bias and without the bias with the representativeness, we may have the better quality data. So how to improve the responses? That might be very good point. So if we provide someone with the money, like the gift card, so if we participate by survey, you have the chance to get the maybe 5만 원 gift card for the Starbucks. So you may feel some motivation to participate the survey. But yeah, you may remember that, right? So there are many of the user experience survey. They are saying that you may have the chance to get the 경품, right? You may have a chance to 경품, and then you would participate in the survey. So that's a very easy one. So another one is the interview. There might be in-person, face-to-face interview, the Zoom interview, or whatever. So data collection encounter in which one person asks a question to another. So more expensive and more time consuming, but usually having the higher rates, the mail survey. So interview minimize the no or no answer, and then serves as a guard against confusion because they can explain more when they are confused about that, and can observe a little while completing the questionnaire. So one-to-one interview are usually the better condition. So general guideline of survey interviewing that to dress appropriately because if you wear very red, very dirty dresses, possibly the participant would not want to join the survey. Be familiar with the questionnaire. If they don't know about questionnaire, that will be the disaster. Follow questions working exactly, record response exactly, because if they make the mistake, that's the wrong data. probe when necessary. Mistakenly employed employer to solicit more complete answer to a question. All right. So when they hire, so when you hire the interviewer, so as possibly if you take the exam of the 사회조사 분석사, you might be hired as an interviewer from the 조사 company, and you would be trained to a general guideline how to handle different situations and the practice interviews and the real one. And telephone survey. So very long time ago. So in the textbook, this is outdated data. But in these days, at least in South Korea, very small number, so a smaller proportion, definitely is less than 95%. Nowadays, we have the cell phone. But anyway, time and money consuming, there will be some control personal safety because instead of meeting as in person, there would be the less contact to the people. There might be the less attention about that. But disadvantage, bogus survey, fake or deceptive survey, unlisted phone numbers and cell phones. So now these days we have the more samples and answering machines and voice and caller ID. Yeah, there are many limitations. So they are trying to use many of the technologies and many of the methodologies to randomize them. Computer assisted telephone interviewing, we don't like that. But usually in these days, because of the voice phishing, telephone surveys are very, very low. They have the very low participation rate. So I hesitate to say that telephone survey would be very effective or very, very useful way of the survey. Okay. So online survey in these days much better. So if we want to do the online survey in the US, in the many of the Western countries, they use the Survey Monkey. But most likely in these days you can use the Google Forms. So for example, as I'm sharing the screen, maybe I can do that. So yeah, if you have the Google account, if you go to the Google Forms, so you might be familiar about that, right? Because I used it a lot for the semester survey. So let's suppose that this is the maybe survey questions, and you can make the instructions, blah blah. And this is a question, multiple choice question, saying that do you like research methods on social welfare? Yeah. So if I just make the very yes, do you like? Yes. And if I just have only one answer, they might bias, right? Maybe no. Okay, heartbreaking. So required answer, right? So in this way, maybe this is preview, but right? Do you like the method of social welfare class? Yes or no? No. You can answer in that way, right? So possibly you can change this questionnaire as how much do you like the research uh, on social welfare class? We can make the scale like that, right? So 1, 2, 3, 5, or the rating. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it means that one means not very, not uh very dislike. Two means less dislike. Three means uh neutral. Four means like. It's how much you like. It's hard. Five is very light. Okay. Then we can see that the numbers, you can see the numbers as okay. How much you like this answer? One is very dislike, neutral, like, very like. You can say five and submit, and then you can find the answer. So by using the Google Forms later, you can select the data. You can collect the data based on your topic. All right. So online survey, do use consistent wording, do use simple language, don't force excess coloring. So very similar with the survey other guideline, the survey research. So probably we can skip that one. Mixable survey, a survey combined with a review of the existing data, in-depth field observation interviews. So there's a mixed one, but very likely. So self-administered questionnaires. So as we do that, the online survey as I just did, cheaper, faster, national is the same cost, and the local mailings requires small step, more willingness. Interview surveys, fewer incoming completion, complicated questionnaires, more effective for the complicated questions, face-to-face and more intimate. So you can. mm, So based on those two options, it depends. So if you have much money and much budget, more time, and if you need the more collect data, the correct data, you can choose the interview survey. But possibly, if there is not very sensitive, if you don't worry a lot about the participant rate, you can choose the self-administered questionnaire. So I cannot say which one is ultimately better, but it depends on the situation. All right, so telephone survey in these days, yeah, I'm not sure. So cell phone surveys are much better, but online survey in these days much more prevalent. So maybe in my professional opinion, maybe the interview survey would be the best for the quality of the data. But in these days, for the more the cost efficiency, maybe you can choose the online survey. All right, so it's almost done. Uh, the strength is the social survey is the useful in describing large population because you are using the sampling data in case there's a representative. Make large sample possible. Surveys are flexible, standardized questions, but the quality of the weakness would be that if you have the very bad wording of the questionnaires, you may encounter many of these disadvantages. The round pegs and the square holes, which is that you are not finding very good types of the answers, but very random, and the seldom deal with the content of social life, inflexible, artificial without validity, but strong reliability, as we saw in the that. And secondary analysis might be one way. So if you go to the grad school, you will learn that a lot. But if I show you some of the examples from the general social survey, that's the secondary data because that's not first. I'm not first and the one who handle the data, who collect the data, but I'm using the already collected data. Advantages, cheaper and faster than the primary data collection. So if you start to collect opinion from 100 people near you, it takes a long time. But if you just download the data and make the analysis, maybe it will be faster. Disadvantage is validity, which means so you are using the pre-existing data and the pre-existing the questions. So in case the variables, I mean the questions do not contain, does not have the any question there you want to use, they may not be very valid to deal with your topic. So validity issue. So this is general social surveys. A long time ago, you could use the SDA, which is the program from the Berkeley. So probably uh, the textbook says we have the SDA, but in these days, I don't think so. I don't think so. You can use the SDA like that. So, but I'm skipping this part because in this semester, maybe, maybe we are just focusing on the we're just focusing on theory more. So, for example, where is the age variable? Okay, so there is age variable. We could say that there are, 18 years old, 2.4%, blah, blah, blah. And which one is the largest group? Okay, it looks like 1,621 cases are 30 years old. So probably the median is the, median is the 30, so it doesn't show that. Then No, not the means. Oh, median. Okay. Okay. Table. Low. Let's also the age. Column. No, no, wait. Okay. Upload option. Okay, so I'm just saying that as just for the example. Yeah, you may feel that it's very good. It's very good not covering this, right? Okay, so we are not using that one. We are not using the SDA program because it takes so long time. So I'm not doing that. Run the table. Shoo. Age variable. Okay, so there are some 18. Okay, there are age members, and the median. Where is the median? Oh, no median. You cannot find the median. Sorry. Oh, sorry, 33. In the median is the middle, right? So the mode is 23. Oh, maybe I made a mistake. So I thought that 30 would have more percentages, but 20, no, 23, 2.3%. Hmm. Okay, I got it. So this is the mode because it has the largest number of the cases. So by using the secondary data, you can search the variables and you can do that. But usually, you need to use the program, statistical program, because as you could see, right, again, it's not very user friendly. Not very user friendly. So find the variable in this way, yeah, it makes very big headache. So that's not very useful. But instead of that, so for example, if you want to go to grad school, maybe you can use this type of the data, data. You can use a command like this. And so I was working on other data schedule, like that. And so this one was what I was using. Okay. Okay, we'll like that. This is the data. This is data, and you can find the tabulation, and you can make the tabulation like this. So if you feel very interested in this type of the works, yeah, you are the right person to come to the grad school. But not now, not this day, or not in this course. If you come to grad school, yes. So research ethics. That's very same. The same with the other research ethics. Often ask a private question, but the participant should be protected. So in that way. So if you just remind about the ethical considerations, that will be very well aligned with the ethical consideration of the survey research. All right. Chapter summary. So maybe you can read over them later. Summary, blah blah blah. So let me cover the example questionnaires and let me go to the in-class assignment so that you can just check up your attendance. Okay. So when is survey research best methods available? Collect data, original data when describing the population too large, also directly when measuring attitude, all of the above. So usually you feel that all of the above like very attractive because all answers are sounds right. Okay, answer D. Okay. Blah blah questions have a response and select an answer from among a list provided. So that is not open-ended. So this is not pretest. This is not experimental. So we can say this is a closed-ended one. Okay, D. As a general rule, a questionnaire should be spread out instead of the one lines, okay? Everything one line, spread out. Yes. Uncluttered, which means easy to read, not very complex. Yes. Relevant? Yes. All of the above sounds right. Okay? All of the above. Which of these are among the many advantages that underlie the growing popularity of the telephone survey? In these days, no, not telephone survey, but telephone survey. Money, time, convenience, all of the choice, none of the choice. None of the all choices, honestly, in these days, 2025, none of these answers are right, but the textbook is very old one, so maybe they didn't change it. So probably so in 2025, E But before that, maybe 2000, early 2000, maybe this one. Okay, answer is D, which is not an advantage of the survey research. Increased validity. Oh, maybe no validity. Increased reliability, maybe. Generalizability, maybe. Inflexibility, maybe yes. So A, validity, no. The major problem of secondary data pertains to validity, inclusion. So maybe validity, right? Validity issue. All right, so it seems, yeah, I rushed it a little bit, but this is the part of the lecture and the part of my lecture point, and there is in-class assignment. So I just opened that one, right? In-class assignment or service attendance check. So if you go to the KU LMS, you can find this one. So this is 10 point total, and as well as the also service attendance check. Based on the questions, so please fix the questions. So these questions are very problematic, very problematic. So I want you maybe explain why each item is very bad or very disadvantaged, or no, as erroneous, and how would you fix that problem? So how would you fix the problem? That would be very good question there, you can see. And question number two is a six-item micro question. In this question, you are expected to construct, you to create your own, or you can find the answer you can make. Well-formed question there. Create six items on one topic. So example, you can choose anything. Study habit, attitude towards social issues, homosexuality, equality, anything you'd like to focus on, like immigrants or whatever. So whatever. So you can choose whatever you want. So why don't you make a very good two open-ended questions and three close-ended questions, which is one at least one in the Likert scale has odd number. I mean whole. There are the whole number of the possible answers, but there will be strongly disagree, disagree, maybe neutral, agree, strongly agree, like that. So that is what we call the Likert scale. And one contingency question, which is the okay question number one. Do you have the PlayStation 5? Yes or no? So if you say yes, how many games do you have? But if you say no, if you don't have the PlayStation 5, you may not answer those questions like that. So that would be the contingency question there. Okay. So okay, so as this is the 10, 30, 31, so I will give you 15 minutes. So as I have the five of you, so I will have the 15 minutes for you to work on that. And after 15 minutes, so I will provide the possible the model answers for that. Okay, so this is the 10:32. I will come back on the 10:47. So while then, you to start working on it, and maybe you can finish that as you want. So, this one is graded based on the pass or fail. I mean, if you complete that, that is fine. So because I will provide more instruction on that. So this is not based on the very good qualities, but if you just make the very decent quality, I mean enough quality over the answer, you will be having the pass, the good grade on that. The passing means 10 on this question in this assignment. Okay, so I will come back 10:47 and see you very soon. 네, 방금 질문이 하나 들어왔는데요. LMS로 제출하시면 되는 겁니다. 네, 이메일이 아니라 여기 들어가시면은 아마 Start Assignment라고 있어요. 여기에다가 자유롭게 작성하시면 되고요. 지금 요거는 뭐 이제 조금 뭐 영어로 쓰시는 게 원칙이지만은 너무 이제 영어로 쓰시는 게 좀 부담스럽다 하시면은 뭐 한국어로 하셔도 페널티는 없으니까 네, 그렇게 진행하시면 되겠습니다. 네. 인스트럭션이라서 한국어로 했어요. 네, 그럼 한 10분 정도 더 시간을 드리고 So I will come back in 10:47. See you soon. Okay, so yeah, so let me briefly try to provide the model answers. It's very hard to say the model answers, but let's say that. All right, so please fix the questions. So, do you disagree that students shouldn't be required to attend class? So this is why we say the double better question. So, you'd rather to make the very more simpler one. So, do you agree that students should be required to attend class? Or do you disagree that to should be required to attend class? The meaning is different, but it should be one line. So if you use the two negative, oh no, this is not double better. So not double better. So two negatives, right? So there are two negatives, so we cannot answer very well with the very it's not very intuitive. So you can change that. And so the second one is, do you support higher taxes and better welfare program? This is what we the better double better question. So there are two shots. As do you agree with the high tax and better welfare program? So there are maybe there if you have the high tax, maybe they would have a better welfare program, but you may have a different opinion for each item. So there should be only one item. So do you support for higher taxes or do you support for higher or better welfare program? Maybe TAR. Yeah, I will make it simpler because it should be simple, right? So it should be better. So how effectively your city's fiscal policy to the long-term inflation control? I don't know. It's very hard. So it should be easier. So do you feel such as mm, do you feel your local government has effect effective use of the budget? Still very, it's a little bit vague still, but anyway, that's much better. Okay? Don't you agree that lazy students should be punished for skipping class? That's the value oriented. So maybe do you agree that students uh students should come to class regularly? Oh no. Regularly. Yeah, that's much better, right? So there might be some possible questions that possible answers for that. All right, so question two, 6 item micro questions. In your question, you expect to construct a short, well-formed question there. So two open-ended questions. So maybe one open-ended question one. So let's suppose that the topic would be as this is social welfare class. Maybe the poverty, let's say that. Poverty. What do you think about the current level of poverty in Sejong city area? So we don't know, but it could be a variable answer right there. So you can make the answer blah 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 like that. And open question two, do you think we should no what what is your opinion about the general trend of poverty in South Korea, right? So it's a very grand question still, but it should provide a better open-ended question, right? So three closed-ended questions. So maybe number one, what is the level of poverty issue in South, no, South Korea? So if we make it very simple, good, two, normal, three, bad, right? So that might be very good. close-ended question. Or I'm not sure there's a no. Okay, that's the five. Okay, let's say the five table. No. Not sure. Okay. So, do you agree to put more budget to help the poor? Not very clear yet, but the strongly disagree. Disagree. New neutral. Agree. Strongly agree. Right? There might be another one. Mhm. There will be two. Do you think we should have more tax cut for the 낙수 효과, trickling effect? Trickling effect, in effect. Right? So there might be very good examples of the good. I cannot say good, but there might be appropriate example for that. So one contingency question would be, so do you think we should have welfare service reform? Yes. No. If you say yes, go to the next question. If you answered yes, yes in the previous question, why should we have the welfare reform? Then it can be open-ended question like that. All right, so it might be very simple, right? So this is very, very simple to look through the possible issues of the survey question, and you can try to fix the possible survey question. All right, thank you very much for your attention. All right, so this is the end of the lecture today. Thank you very much for your attention and have a great weekend. So we will come back hopefully. So as you can see, my my condition is not still not very good, but we will come back to the in-person format in the next week. All right, so thank you very much for your time, and you are free to go. Thank you very much, and see you next week. Have a great weekend. Bye. Thank you.
수고하셨습니다.
네, 고생했어요. 좋은 주말 되세요.
수고하셨습니다.
네, 고생하셨습니다. 좋은 주말 되세요. 자, 네. 이제 방을 이제 끄도록 하겠습니다. 네.